Okay, can I go ahead? All right, I call the meeting to order at 4:01. Let's start with our land acknowledgement. So we meet today on settled indigenous land, which is the traditional territory of the Chinookan people of the Wasco, Wishram, and Warm Springs and Grand Ronde tribes. Let us honor this land and its traditional native stewards, past, present, and future, and strive today to embody a commitment to culture, equity, and reconciliation, ecological conservation, and sustainability. I hereby call this meeting to order again at 4:02. Roll call. Greg Pack. Here. Megan Ramey. I'm here.
Tia will go ahead and do that.
Oh, sorry, you. Yes, sorry. It says it right there. Thank you.
Greg Pack, Chair. Megan Ramey, Vice Chair.
Here.
Tamara.
Here.
Megan Larrabee.
She is just from the meetings.
I'll go back to her in just a second. Isella.
Here.
Elazar. Matt.
Here.
Megan Larrabee.
Here.
Thank you, Megan.
Sorry.
All right, all yours.
Okay. For the minutes of March 20th, 2024, our last board meeting, they were included in your packet. Are there any changes that board members would like to make? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Hi. Hi.
Chair votes aye. Minutes pass. Okay, now is the opportunity for public comment regarding a discussion item that is not on the agenda today. Are there anybody in the audience? Not seeing anybody. Okay. All right, so I believe we are on to Will. You can go ahead.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go right into that?
Yes, please. Yeah, so Vice Chair Ramey, members of the Columbia Area Transit Board, thanks for making time for me on your schedule. I have a presentation on the first substantial amendment to the Waterfront Urban Renewal Plan that the agency is proposing. And we're currently in the consultant confer phase, which is 45 days. And what we're looking for is written feedback, if any, on the substantial amendment, and so that's what I'm here today, to provide a presentation and be here to answer any questions so that you feel confident providing any input that you may have by the May 1st deadline. So I'm going to start out just with a quick overview of renewal, what urban renewal is, just to level set, and the history of the waterfront, kind of where we got to today, and then touch on the reason for the first substantial amendment, which is the stormwater replacement project, and why we need to increase the maximum indebtedness of the district for that project, and then just talked about some of the impacts of the first substantial amendment itself. So absent development, you probably all know that tax revenues grow by 3% per year under measures 5 and 50, voter approved initiatives from the 1990s. And what urban renewal does is it caps that growth, keeping the base taxable value in a certain geographic area the same, and continuing it for that revenue to serve overlapping districts. But the growth, or what we call the tax increment, is sequestered in an area in order to pay for public investments. And so you target areas where there are understood barriers to economic development, and you use this revenue stream to borrow today to alleviate those barriers and hopefully unlock private development. So the private development follows the public development, and then the money that you borrowed is paid off, and all of that additional revenue then goes back onto the regular rolls, leaving all taxing entities with more money than they would have had otherwise, and having revitalized areas. So that's urban renewal and concept. And I'm bringing to the practical and our actual experience with it here in the waterfront district. So this is the waterfront in 1993. It was mostly empty vacant lots. Jumping forward a decade, nothing had changed. Parking lot had been added and there was some improvements to Second Street starting. But continuing up for the next several years, no development and no buildings were occurring in the waterfront area. So this is the view down Portway in 2007. And I understand from stories that there used to be bike races that would go around in circles in the waterfront because there was no cars and nothing going on down there. But also it was just, I also heard stories of this, the smell when the wind was blowing in the right direction from the odor from wastewater treatment plant basically made it intolerable to be down there. So an urban renewal district was created to address some of these barriers that was stopping the waterfront from developing. Number of goals there, but essentially the money was allocated about half for infrastructure investments, a third for recreational improvements, and then the balance for some habitat restoration, business recruitment, and then just administration of the district. So the authorized spending level, also called maximum indebtedness, was $5.75 million. First projects getting started was the waterfront park, and that actually wasn't urban renewal funded, but it was happening at the same time. Urban renewal paid to master plan the interior of the district. And then the first projects were the construction of Anchor Way and odor control measures at the waterfront. And then the Port of Hood River built a spec industrial building without having a tenant lined up, which we now know is the frame building. But I really like to emphasize kind of how much of a risk that was at the time. You know, in 2010, we were at the depths of the Great Recession. Financial markets were seizing up. It was very difficult to borrow money. No one really knew what the economy was going to do. We didn't know if we were on the verge of a Great Depression. But the port took a chance, especially in the environment of this urban renewal district getting going, to build a first industrial building in over a decade. So now in 2012, the park is starting to come together, and we have the first building along Portway, and it's kind of coming into what we know of today. And this is where private development does start to follow those public investments, with the Hood Tech building being built, Turtle Islands plant, the building that used to house the headquarters for Decine, and then also the building where Camp 1805 and Solstice are today. And the graph at the top is showing where actual assessed value is now diverging from the white line, which is just that 3% growth every year. So then by 2016, we did a planning exercise to do a waterfront overlay and create additional design standards for the look and feel of the district. Created that kind of wood and glass and steel look that we all know down there. And the Hampton Inn came in 2016 as part of a development deal that also allowed for the Nichols Basin to come into public ownership and do all the habitat restoration work that's been going on there ever since. And Portway was finished, doing a lot of streetscape improvements with trees and amenities and adding the angled parking. And now in 2016, roughly looks like what we know today, full of people, businesses, recreational amenities. 2018, the last major developments occurred. What's called the Outpost building is where Ferment is located. Shepherd's relocation and expansion, and then also the Mid-Columbia Medical Center came in 2018. And even though those were the last major developments, tax revenues continue to grow rapidly for the next few years because a lot of those developments came on through enterprise zone tax abatement that basically allows certain developments, if they guarantee to generate a certain amount of jobs, living wage jobs, they can have a property tax abatement for a number of years. So some of them had a delayed effect onto the tax increment of the district. So that's basically where we would end today. Wrap this up as a successful example of tax increment financing and have all this about 400% growth in property tax revenue over and above what had been its prior trajectory without urban renewal onto the general rolls. But there was a sinkhole that was found in 2019 at the base of the Hood River Distillers plant after heavy rain. And it was found that that's where a stormwater line had collapsed. So the origins of that stormwater line go all the way back to the 1960s when the waterfront was being built out of tailings from dam construction. So it used to be that the stormwater from downtown would just empty out right into the then current banks of the Columbia River, which were over by the interstate and the railroad. But when the waterfront district was created, now that had to be piped further to now the new banks of the Columbia, over kind of just west, the outfalls just west of where the current waterfront park is. So that was made before there was any development in the waterfront. And unfortunately, over decades, what development was there was allowed to occur over top that stormwater line, which is not how things are done or should be done. Water, sewer, storm should be in the right of way following streets. Where the stormwater line sank was ruptured by the Hood River Distillers, that needed to immediately be rerouted. And the Urban Renewal Agency dedicated all remaining maximum indebtedness of the waterfront district to this project to get it done without delay. And then another phase, which has moved the outfall out from underneath another building and along a property line in between the park and that building, was just completed actually just a couple of weeks ago. And then next phases will be to divert downtown runoff into an enhanced wetland that is kind of in between 84 and the railroad tracks, and where it will have passive treatment there, and then slowly work its way out to the hook. And then lastly, the last bits that are underneath buildings will be relocated to Riverside Drive, and all those buildings reconnected to the new system. So while we still have 2 phases to go, the waterfront district itself has reached its maximum indebtedness this year. And so we're in our last opportunity to increase its maximum indebtedness in order to continue to pay for this project if needed. It's a little cut off on the screen, but we have pulled in other funding sources. So we've got money from Oregon DEQ, Business Oregon. We got money from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan Act. But urban renewal has always been that local funding source of last resort for this project that has not been built into utility rates, was not on our capital improvement program.
And I'm sorry, could we collapse the on-screen people?
Yeah, let me see.
Just so we can see the,
Yeah,
thank you, thank you.
sure. So it's very possible that this amount of funding will pay for the project. How I've been communicating this need for a increase in the maximum indebtedness of the waterfront is as an insurance policy, because until we can have all the estimates that we want of what construction is going to cost, but until we bid it, we just don't know. So the Urban Renewal Agency thought it was prudent to take the chance while we have it before it expires to increase the maximum indebtedness of the district, but has also expressed that they intend to, if it is not needed for this project,
or
Oh.
sorry,
Mhm.
can you allow Kobe to come in?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
To any funds collected and not actually used on this project to be returned and remitted back to overlapping districts.
So just to clarify, that
Mhm.
the 2 mil is that what you project will be needed within Devonness, or is that what currently is in the pot?
Currently in the pot.
Okay.
Mhm. So we are using a process under ORS 457.220 that allows us to increase the maximum indebtedness of the district by 20% plus inflation, plus an inflation adjustment. So what that comes out to is an increase to $7.9 million. And so people always know, what does that mean for the life of the district? So I added some slides here about, this was the original plan projections as to what tax increment would be generated and how long it would be needed in order to be kind of sequestered to pay for the projects and pay for the debt associated with projects. So the 2008 plan projections expected the district to last through fiscal year 28. These are the actual tax revenues. So it actually came in a little bit slower at the beginning, but by fiscal year 2019, actual tax increment exceeded the projections in the 2008 plan. And I think possibly that might have to do with enterprise tax zone abatements, which may not have been thought of in the plan. In fiscal year 21, we suspended tax collection across all of our districts. That was as we were going into the early, we were budgeting for FY 2021 right as the pandemic was hitting. We didn't know there was going to be all the federal aid that there was going to be. And so we decided that we would just pause collection of tax increment and help all the overlapping districts have a boost of money for that year. Collection then resumed, and this is the projections with a tax increment with the maximum indebtedness increase. So it'll dip just a bit in fiscal year 25 because we resized the district in order to accommodate the new West Side Urban Renewal District. So we reduced the number of buildings and things that are in the taxable value that was in the district. So there will be a reduction as some of that money goes on to the general roles. But it will then last through fiscal year 27, depending on if the project actually needs the money. Closing with just a partial collection year in fiscal 27, and still 1 year ahead of the original projections in the plan. So this is our process that we're going through. Right now, we're in the meet and confer period. Just gave a presentation to Hood River County commissioners 2 days ago. And we hope to have all the written input that overlapping districts may have by May 12th, ahead of a public hearing on the ordinance, start approving this maximum indebtedness increase on May 13th. So that was all. I really appreciate your time to kind of be able to walk through all of that history. But I think it's important for kind of connecting the dots, but here to also answer any questions that you may have.
Can you go back a couple slides?
To show people so we can
And so
see.
that dive of the dotted line there is indicating that there will be less, I guess, less money taken from other districts to pay for.
Retained, yeah, less money retained in the Waterfront Urban Renewal District,
Right.
Because it will only need a partial collection that year in order to.
Because we're so far ahead of what was originally forecast.
This is, so if we don't do the maximum, if we don't increase the maximum indebtedness increase, we're done this year. We're done right now. We end where that black line
I see,
is.
okay.
And if we do increase it, we'll add a few more years, and then also just a small partial collection in fiscal year 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's when the West Side one takes over, right? Or I'm sorry, I forget which one the west side one starts.
West Side is starting in fiscal year 25, so
So there's a couple of years overlap. between
overlap,
two.
yeah. But start very slowly.
And how does that interaction happen or work with the two renewal districts at the same time?
That only, so state law says how much area you can have an active collection. And that's why we resized the waterfront district, is there is enough allocation for all, for the west side, the heights and the waterfront district to all be actively doing division of tax concurrently.
That's just defined as like a percent of your total
Oh.
value in the county or in the, you know, some sort of defined amount. It's just a percent of that, I'm assuming. that you can-
Correct. Yeah, 25%, I believe.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is this, sorry, this is a silly question, being a Midwesterner, Flatlander, is this sort of unique to Oregon or California where you have these measures that dictate you can only increase property tax 3% a year?
Yes, yeah. Oh, man, I could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah, I don't wanna start that, but
1990s, there was some voter initiatives, an activist named Bill Sizemore who led a bunch of tax voter initiatives that capped how much assessed value can grow at 3% per year.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it's just, that's the way these states have figured out how to kind of work around that limit to, as you say, like increase the total value of property that the county has to collect taxes against.
Yeah, the only way we can have our tax revenue grow faster than 3% per year is if we have new buildings. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is, are there other means of financing these projects?
Yeah, utility rates.
Like option levies or?
Yep, voter approved,
Bonds?
yep,
Yeah.
bonds, yep, all the normal things too.
Right, okay. Thank you. Sorry, silly questions.
Megan had a question too.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify in summary. So you're sort of proposing that we increase the amount collected despite the fact that this black line is going above projections, but we want to extend it because of maybe unforeseeable expenses related to finishing phase 3 and 4 of this plan?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
The request for an increase in our spending authority is fully driven by this unforeseen stormwater project.
Okay. And are there any concerns with like the tax dollars, maybe like improper assessments on the waterfront? Like, will there be a reduction in taxes coming from that or money coming from those properties? Like, is there any foreseen reduction in revenue?
Oh, no. The way property taxes are, the 3% limit on growth also makes our tax structure extremely stable because real values have climbed, especially since the 90s. Real values have climbed so much higher than that 3% that there's no way they could ever fall below it again. And there's no way like the taxes won't just continue to grow at 3% indefinitely.
Okay. Oh, my concern was more like if there are buildings on the waterfront that were improperly assessed and that there could be like ramifications of that changing that would then affect this.
Every property owner is, I think, keenly aware of their assessment as they're paying the taxes and would have, many years ago, filed an objection to the county assessor if they thought they were being overassessed.
Okay.
But,
Thank you.
yeah, that's very rare.
Is expansion in that area capped?
To some degree with that waterfront overlay that I talked about. Like that caps the uses and the size, but certainly lot 1 is still developable if it can develop, but there's no, other than the normal planning rules about size of buildings and things like that, there's no limit to the taxable value that can be put down there. Mhm.
Yeah, there's still a big chunk of land.
Well, and I didn't know if there was a cap for usage, in that area. I I mean, I've been here about a year and a half and I've seen some of the new businesses go in. I don't know if there was previous business or these are, you know, a turnover on what has been down there, but if there's some limitations on what can be put in there, it's created any issues.
Yeah, it's pretty, this is also getting maybe off track, but I think it's very interesting. I find it one of the most interesting things about kind of Hood River is the waterfront is nearly all industrial. And everything that's in there, if there is a restaurant or a tasting room, it's all needs to be attached to a production. So that's why like Frame produces out of there, even the coffee shop roasts out of there, right? All has to be connected to a maker. Mhm.
Will this new project be able to handle lot one's development? So
Uh,
that's probably a planning question, and I think that, is that something we can answer?
oh yeah, this one won't serve,
It will.
won't serve lot one. Yeah.
Um, So I'm kind of along the lines with Matt's questioning is, what, can there be projects in an urban renewal district that are paid for by the city instead of the urban renewal fund? Does that ever happen? Because the sewer issue seems to me like a city.
Stormwater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was not in any of our capital improvement programs. And usually this would be something that our utility rates are just designed to plan for their eventual removal
Mhm.
and replacement and end of life. There is kind of like a context of this I haven't gone into much, but there, how I said the lines go underneath existing development. There was a intergovernmental agreement between the city and the port that if that line ever needed to be moved, the port would be responsible for moving it. And so that's why we never planned and saved up money for this replacement in the kind of in the first place.
Mm.
When the collapse actually happened and we tried to effectuate that agreement, they said, no, that's not what our agreement meant. It meant that like if like kind of like a warranty on like a manufacturer's defect. They said really that it was only if it failed because of a defect. It's not our responsibility to move it just because it's old. And so that that agreement was from back in the 60s. So no one's around anymore who wrote it. And instead of one government paying to sue another government, which is really just we're all representing the same taxpayers.
Yeah.
Decided because essentially the port as the biggest landowner in the area is the beneficiary of urban renewal dollars anyway. It was kind of a way to get the money from the port without having to get the money from the port was to use the urban renewal funds for it.
Okay, yeah, I get why you have to do this. But it's just the project, when I first saw it, always presented at city council when I was there like a month ago, I was like, I understand, so, but this is more as my taxpayer mind, like I wish the city would have enough money to take care of projects like this, because urban renewal to me is blighted areas that need a boost of, like creativity just to like spur real estate. But this is like, seems to be the opposite, where we now have a really nice area that has like a major catastrophe problem. My other thing, and like Megan Saunders picked at this a little bit during council, was, so this happened in 2019. And you did, or not you, but essentially, city council members went round robin on the west side urban renewal district, like, what was it, 6 months ago?
Something like that.
And you didn't know this was gonna essentially happen.
No,
I mean, this solution.
Yeah, no, yeah, background how the sausage getting made. I guess it was more than 6 months ago because I've been here for 6 months.
Okay.
And all of that work where the west side was getting explained to all the relevant districts was before I rejoined the city.
Okay.
This is something that I picked out and identified of like, and kind of rose up saying, hey, this is our last chance. Are we willing to risk this falling to the ratepayers, or do we want to initiate an increase? And so I brought that discussion forward, and the council, what hadn't been so aware of it.
Yeah, I get it. It was just explained to us, it was more than, it was last summer then, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it was May or June because it's before, the new ordinance came out.
Like the sales pitch was,
Waterfront's
the
coming off.
waterfront's been like an amazing success story. We're now letting it kind of go off to sea, and it's time for the west side to, but I
Valid
get
point.
what you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how it hurts.
Well, my understanding is, well, I mean, the infrastructure helps us, which is good. And especially with the West Side Plan, it has a lot of benefits for us as an agency. We need that in order to grow and to serve our community. I think the Land Road light improvement is a really good example of how we need that in order to provide our services more safely. And then the other improvements that will go up into the continuation of the Rand Road improvements is going to allow us to serve the west side. So I think that's really important. My understanding is though the 3% won't necessarily change, right? It's like each year our property taxes that we receive will still be at that 3%, but anything additional goes to the renewal. Am I right on that, or is that the?
Even the 3% within that sequestered area.
But we still see some sort of every year, some sort of little addition, right?
Yeah, I think I wish I had the calculations right for me. I looked at how much assessed value is of the transit district is within the West Side district, and it's single digits. So it's like a single digit base of your tax base, losing the 3% growth off of that. But all the rest of your tax base grows at 3%, or what development occurs.
I think my initial concerns was just it was mostly because of our NOLO grant that we were awarded last summer, that we applied for like a year before that, where we were kind of making an assumption that we were going to get a certain amount of property tax dollars to help with our match amount for that grant. And I might have changed some of our ask on that grant if I had known that this was kind of coming down the pike. So I think that was more of my concern the last time, but I think based on what I'm hearing from you and Kathy, because Kathy has been doing a lot of work on this too and helping me understand all the things, is that the actual impact to us will be fairly minimal for the property tax dollars that we receive each year. And then there's all the added improvements that will allow us to, with the West Side District specifically, that will allow us to serve our community better, which is an added benefit to us, obviously.
Thank you. Well, does anybody?
Megan's hand still up.
Megan, do you still have a question, or your hand still raised?
No, I'm good. That was I asked my question. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I've been looking at the wrong clock this whole time, so we have a packed agenda and we are only 5 minutes behind, but I'm gonna try and keep us going pretty fast. So we are now on to our quarterly financial report with Miss Emily and Tia.
Hello, thank you. It's nice to see you all, and I will try and keep my review fairly brief too, just because I know you have a lot on your agenda for today. So hopefully you all have in front of you the financial packet reports and the summary or analysis that I did on it, and I'll just run through that pretty briefly. I think because you have such a packed agenda and there hasn't been a huge shift since last time, really, I'm just going to hit on the highlights and not go through every single section. So starting with the statement of financial position, as of March 31st, 2024, the district had $1.275 million, and most of that, about $1 million of it, is sitting in the Hood River County LGIP account, which we are also looking to move. So that's something we'll cover in just a minute. Other liabilities, you have a credit card payable of $1,300, and that got paid at the beginning of April. And you have accrued payroll of about $7,000. Most of that was retirement withholdings that also have been remitted since then. So the district doesn't owe that anymore, but there isn't a lot of debt on your books, which is awesome. For your statement of activity, your total revenue for the year is just over $1 million, 2.1 million. I can't talk, I'm sorry. 2.1 million, just over $2 million, which is a little bit less than last year, a little bit less than this time last year. Your cost of goods sold, the vehicle expenses were about 4.3 thousand, which is under budget still, even though it's a little bit more than last year. Fuel also is holding steady. So it was 162,000, which is under budget and under the comparative expense. I know that we had like huge fuel increases for a long time. And so our budget was like, we got to make sure we have enough for that. Thankfully, we haven't needed it, which is great. Operating expense, repairs and preventative maintenance have totaled so far about $70,000, which is also $57,000 under budget. So you're looking really good there. Your communication expense, which is your dispatch software, GPS software, cellular data, two-way radios, was about 39,000. And that's a little bit more than last year because you guys have implemented some new things, but you're still under budget by $12,000. Vehicle insurance was paid, so that came out in February. But again, in the past, you guys have expensed that over time. So on an accrual basis, you deducted that kind of on a monthly basis based on an estimate, but we are not doing that anymore. So just the total amount came out in February, which is $43,000. Driver expenses are $7,500 ish, which is also under budget, and advertising, marketing, everything's pretty much under budget, which is great. Your gross profit then means that you have a gross profit of 1.6 million, which is a little bit less than last year and a little bit less than budget, but still looking very good. Your administrative expenses, they finished the HVAC replacement, which cost $68,000, and that was done in February, so that's great. So far, your total administrative expenses with that included has been $228,000, which is still a little bit more than last year, and it's also a bit over budget. We'll get to that in a minute too. Personnel expenses, though, have been at 1.1 million, which is less than this time last year and also less than budget. Most of that is operating. About 3/4 of that is operating, being under budget, and about 1/4 of it is administrative. Capital outlay, you still haven't had any big capital outlay this year, except for the bike rack. And so your net income then total for the first 9 months of fiscal year 2024 is $270,000, which is more than this time last year and a little bit less than budget. And then you also have included near the back the accounts receivable and accounts payable summaries, which are not presented on the financial statements because it's a different basis of accounting, but we did include it for your information. So unpaid outstanding accounts receivable at the end of March was $5,700. And most of those are within the 60-day window. So that's looking good. And your accounts payable was just under $10,000. Most of those were paid at the beginning of April. And there was a few bills that were waiting for more information before they can get paid. So everything's looking really good. If you turn to the third page of your summary, I have a few additional notes that I wanted to highlight. One is that your budget process is well underway for this year. And I know Amy's been working really hard on the budget message, and you guys already have all your budget hearings scheduled. And that's fantastic. So I just wanted to say big thumbs up for getting the budget well underway this year. I also have an overview of fiscal year 24 budget, what we're looking at for there. So keep in mind the bottom number, because of the way your you wrote your budget last year, the bottom number is the most important. So even if you look across the list, so administrative materials and services, right now there's only $69 remaining in the budgeted amount for that line item, but that doesn't matter as long as the total for all of administrative together stays under budget, then you're fine. So you still actually have $122,000 remaining, which is 23% of your budget, which is about on track then to come for the full year under budget. And then operating, same thing, you're actually massively under budget for that. A lot of that is because you expected some big capital outlay for buses. And because you don't know of the timing of that, you had to make sure you had budget room for it. So if those come in this year, we'll probably be okay. But look, most likely they'll hit next year, which I'm sure Amy will cover when we get to the budget for next year. Other updates, we have the financial management policy, which I know Amy and T have been working really hard on. And I also participated in doing some editing and streamlining suggestions on that. And that is great and done, thank goodness. It's a lot of work to update all these policies and procedures, but I'm really excited with the improvements that have been made. Additionally, we've also been working on a matrix of separation of duties, especially with Tim being on board now too, just to make sure, and me involved and having been here for about a year now, just make sure that we really are on the same page with who all is responsible for what, and that's going really well. We also have updated the payroll entry, which is great, and it's going to allow better reconciliation between all of the reporting. So like Gusto, who actually processes your payroll reports and your QuickBooks reports, didn't always match just because of the way they were getting entered. It was hard to reconcile between the two. So the new system, it's very easy to reconcile between the two, and that will make auditing a lot easier for your new auditors. And then we also have started doing class code tracking for grant expenditures, which I think is going to make a big difference for your grant reporting too. So there's been a lot of updates and changes, and I tried to summarize them all briefly because I know you have a big meeting. But I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Everything's looking really good.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Yeah, I was in like record time. I went so fast.
Well done.
Thank you.
Did great.
And Tia, we're going to be talking about 6B, right?
Yes. Question for you. That's is it separate times or it's like the
You can go.
the LGIP? We got together?
No, let's go ahead and do it as separate.
Okay. So as Emily said, the budget is well underway. We have our first budget meeting on April 24th. Then the LGIP update, everything has been received and they are in the final processing. You should both be getting an email soon that'll have instructions on setting up your access.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, got it.
Yeah. So that should be coming any day. I checked in with them yesterday afternoon. And I got we have it, we're processing, should be coming through anytime. So that's that. And then auditor update. We did release the RFP. Emily was amazing and introduced an awesome site that has the municipal auditor roster. So I sent that out on Thursday to 86 different organizations and individuals, as well as Emily has sent it to a couple of her contacts as well. So we're really hopeful that we will have responses coming in here shortly.
We also are expecting that it's going to be more costly than our last RFP. So we have added that into our budget.
Okay.
Or sorry, not our last RFP, but the last auditor that we had. Will probably most likely be more expensive.
Okay.
That's all I have. Any questions?
I do have a question, and it's on the financial report itself.
Okay.
I'm wondering if the 1020 Hood River County LGIP amount, is that with what's been transferred, or is the amount that we're going to approve going to go on top of what's already in that account?
So that is the current county one.
So
The one, so they're, it's kind of confusing because they're both LGIP accounts. So where all our current funds are being held, they're in the county held LGIP account.
Right.
And we're creating a new one that's under our name. So we're moving all those funds to our account.
So this $1 million here, we're just transferring into our own account.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I was thinking that we're going to be really rich, but we're not.
Unfortunately not.
Okay,
Throwing a good party this Christmas.
I know. All right, thank you.
Well, thank
I
you,
add it?
Emily. You're welcome to leave us if you want to.
Okay.
We're
Thank
gonna
you.
keep-
I had one quick note on the county thing too, which is something that I wasn't aware of and is an added reason why I think we should move the money. So I wasn't aware that the county also asserted a new policy where they mark to market. So they change their investments to fair market value. So you actually don't know. We got the county report like earlier this week that had your guys' money and it looked like you lost $30,000. And I was like, what happened? So I contacted them and stuff, and they're like, well, we hold the maturity, so you don't actually lose it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so we don't actually know how much money. And they're like, no, but we'll make you whole when you move it. And I was like, that's very confusing. So thankfully, we didn't actually lose $30,000. And I think it will be very helpful to have all the money in our own LGIP account. So we won't be, dependent on the county to show us how much money we have anymore.
Or a little bit more clarity.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
All
Thank
right.
you, Emily. We did get a comment from Kathy.
Oh.
Oops.
Oh, it was just a lot of information that, as you were talking, I added. There are two limits to the total area that urban renewal can cover. He only mentioned one, which is 25% of area. The second is it's and, not and or, 25% of area and 25% of AV. And then I thought something else that Will said, I just want to make sure that we all understand that Hood River was the only county in Oregon that saw an actual AV increase after the 2008 financial crisis. And it was only because there was a bunch of industrial development at the time. So it's not like, oh, for sure, in the future, we'll always be seeing these increases. You can't. That's I felt like that was a little glib. That did not happen in 2008.
Okay. What is
But
AV
for-
mean again?
That's value.
Okay.
Assessed value.
Oh, AV. Sorry. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank
Yeah.
Okay, we need to move on to resolutions and action items number 7. So there are several of them, and Amy and Tia are gonna walk us through.
Okay, I will start. So continuing from the LGIP we kind of just discussed, I have provided a memo in your packets requesting that the board review and approve the transfer of the funds that are in the county held LGIP account and move them to our own. On the memo I have, this is prior to the March statement being released. It came out yesterday morning. So the amount documented here was $995,748.69. However, it did state that this does not reflect the current month's interest amount. So that will be higher when we do actually make the formal transfer. So staff is asking for the board to discuss and vote to approve the transfer of the funds that are in the county LGIP account to CAT's LGIP account. Any questions?
Is this managed by just the same people? I mean, the county's fund versus what will now be our fund? I mean, is it it's an investment pool, right? It's just our.
Through the
additional
state
money
of Oregon, yeah.
Through the state of Oregon. So there's no like penalty for us to pull aside $1 million.
There is
Have
not.
like higher fees or anything like
Not
that
at
to
all, no.
managing money. Okay.
The hope is that we will actually, so instead of being in the pool with the county and everybody that's in that and not really having a clear understanding of the interest rate and what fees, and it's just kind of confusing, where this, we will know, like, all the interest will come to us, and we'll just have better tracking and be able to document that better. So,
Good.
There'll also be easier access to it if we need it,
yes.
if we need some of those reserve
Oh, okay.
funds.
When will the transfer happen? If we had, there was a note, it was by the end of the year, but once we put this in motion, will we see it within 30 days, or do we have a wait period, 6 months?
No, so as soon as we get the green light that the account is fully open, then Amy will start initiating the transfer. They ask for 2 days, and then it'll be ready to go. It's
So
very quick.
With
turnaround.
any luck, by the next board meeting, you will see it on your February 16th.
That is the goal, yes.
Why was it set up this way in the first place, out of curiosity? Just,
I honestly don't know.
okay,
It was done.
I'm not too worried, I was just a little curious. So.
Yeah, it
We don't
was.
need to go any further.
Yeah.
I wish I had an answer for you, but it's clear, sorry.
No.
Any other questions? Right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a second.
that was quick.
Hold up, Megan, we gotta get a motion first.
Sorry.
I move to approve the moving county LGIP funds to our district. Is that sufficient motion?
Yes.
All right.
I make a
Right, go ahead.
second to that motion.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, no opposed, chair votes aye, passes. All right, next one.
Okay, also in your packet is an updated financial management policy. Staff is asking the board to review the attached and updated financial management policy that reflects policy and procedure changes that have been implemented after suggestions from our financial auditor. Have you guys had a chance to review that and have any questions about it?
I did, and I saw all the sticky notes, but it was hard to tell where those sticky notes were. Like, I'll show you what it looks like on mine, what they were referring to. I know that is it internal commentary between you guys, or?
Yeah, and maybe I should have left that off. I had kept it because the last time we did it, I had gotten positive feedback on having all those sticky notes in there to kind of show the comments. But I do recognize there are some times where we like resolved the sticky notes without necessarily saying, hey, we did this, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, but we did go through all those notes. They were resolved and addressed by staff and Emily and people as discussed. The one thing that I would add here, that if you guys do decide to move forward with approval of this, I would like to also add, there's a little bit of language under the disposal of capital assets. Based on some additional conversations I had this week with Covey, I'd like to add something that gives a little more clarity on how we deal with assets that are under the 5,000 capital asset limit and that aren't necessarily vehicles. Meaning that we can donate them or do a couple of other things that aren't necessarily super spelled out in the ODOT policy that we kind of have in there as of now.
So should we move this to the next board meeting?
We do need to move forward. I'm required by WashDOT to
Okay.
get this to them. So I think the suggestion is if you feel comfortable with that wording of approval with additional changes to provide a little more clarity on the disposal of capital assets, then I can make a couple of the updates and I can send it to you all and make sure there's no concerns with that wording.
Explain, what is your wording exactly going to be?
So I don't have because it's kind of last minute, but I don't have, it's gonna be, I'm trying to summarize it, so I'm just following ODOT's recommendation and not adding a ton of extra words. Because if ODOT's guidance changes, then it makes our document out of date. But so if you have it right there, so the disposal of property.
It's on page 17 of that
So
document.
5.14 under, sorry, go down a little bit. 5.1.4 disposal procedures. We say that we just follow the ODOT disposal procedures and.
Yep.
I just need to take a look back at some documents that ODOT sent me, but I think actually that might just be fine. Because all of those disposal procedures are in ODOT policy documents.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think Toby, would you agree? I'm sorry, I guess it's not shared. You can't see it. But yeah, so I think we're actually, now that I'm re-looking at this and thinking about it, I think we're okay. I think that's all in there. The intent is clear.
Okay.
So please disregard everything I just said in the last 5 minutes. And we can move forward with as presented.
I move to approve the financial management policy. I think it's well thought out, well put together, and it's of value to the program.
Second.
Are there any other discussions or all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
No opposed, and chair votes aye. Passes. Next one, harassment policy.
So staff is required to update our harassment policy by WashDOT to reflect a more clearly defined investigation process. The document has been reviewed by WashDOT and is considered in compliance. And if approved, we'll just add it as an amendment on our current employee handbook. So the ask is that you guys review and approve or not.
Don't see anything worth discussing.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the harassment policy as stated and be updated into the employee handbook.
I second.
Alright.
Zella?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
I
Aye. Aye.
No opposed, chair votes aye. On to ADA complimentary paratransit plan. That was hard to say.
Yes, so again, staff was required to update the ADA complimentary paratransit plan by ODOT and WashDOT per recently completed compliance reviews. They have both been reviewed by ODOT and WashDOT and are considered in compliance. I did not provide any tracked changes because I completely redid the document. So this is completely different than our paratransit plan that was done, I think, in 2018. I was actually provided a template from WashDOT and I found it very helpful. So I took that and updated it as appropriate. And the intent is to make something that's very clear and understandable as to how we follow ADA. Any questions on it? Okay, the ask is that the boards discuss or hopefully approve.
Any discussion or would somebody like to make an emotion?
I'll move to approve the ADA complimentary paratransit plan.
Second.
I said.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No opposed, chair votes aye. Next one.
All right, the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan. The district is required to update this plan every 3 years or as conditions change. The 2024 update was informed by the 2023 Transit Master Plan, community outreach, and additional outreach completed in the past year. The plan is expected to be updated again in early 2027. As we discussed last meeting, this is an important plan as any grant application projects that we apply for must be included in the priority section in order to be considered for the award. And also super important that anything we put in our STIF plan is also included in this plan, which they are. So the ask of the board is to discuss and decide on whether or not to approve.
I like how you focused us in on those pages, so thank you.
A lot of survey responses on that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things I'd love to see in here, so, thank you.
There's a lot. I suppose my biggest question was just, where we were saying additional administration or operation staff may be needed. Anytime I saw that, it just made me wonder, do we have a target for how many new drivers do we think we'll have to hire? Or do we need to hire a grant writer, or, just in terms of, I guess, executing what we're saying we want to accomplish? How do we do that?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, and that's something that we've been working on. A lot of the grants that we're applying for would include the extra staff needed, like the grant that we applied for the Upper Valley expanded dial-a-ride project would allow, it included a additional dispatcher that would allow us to have dispatch coverage on the weekends. It would also allow for 1 to 2, maybe even 3 additional drivers. And then another conversation I've been having with Kathy a lot is, as we're looking at all these projects and as we get the funding we need for them, how can we maybe work as a region with all the different providers and with MCED to maybe collate our resources and to maybe hire someone that can help with this project management and assist us with moving forward, because all the providers, as we move forward with the Gorge Regional Transit Strategy, are going to have to do elements of these projects, like adding additional bus stops and adding the physical bus stops, not only just asking the cities to have these bus stops, but actually doing the implementation. And so that's something that we have discussed and are hoping to kind of discuss more widely as a group of how all of us combined, all the different providers combined, can help move these projects forward. Kathy, anything else you want to add to that?
Oh, yeah, our conversation, like you were detailing, is really focused on capital projects, on looking at, Klickitat County is wanting to fund a bus barn. They have a parking lot right now where they keep all their buses and vehicles. The same with Skamania County. They are both so far away from being ready to jump on any funding that might be available through their counties. Like if their counties are doing an expansion of let's say, for instance, Public Works, and they could include, bus barn extension as part of the funding, they're just not ready to jump into that. So it's getting prepared. Now, of course, CAT is much further along when we're talking about bus barn expansion and moving, just the capital projects that CAT's gotten funding for and looking for funding for. So yeah, that's kind of, right now we're implementing a lot of the operational details of the regional transit strategy, but next on the list are those capital projects that we need to get in place.
All right, any more questions? I will entertain a motion.
I second.
Oh, we're not there yet, Megan.
Oh,
No, I
sorry.
second.
It's a
Um,
approve or adopt the,
There we go.
the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan.
So moved. I move to approve the draft of the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan.
Now can I second?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I missed the first one.
Any
All
other
right, I second.
discussion?
And I do have a resolution to do a quick read of that
okay.
after it's been approved.
Okay, got it.
One question I do have is, are we able to put dates to any of the challenges, or, you know, any of the strategies? You know, are some of these, it seems like we've been working on, but for completion dates, are we there yet at all?
So, I mean, it depends on the projects. I mean, one of the
Okay.
projects that's continued on for a very long time is bus stops in Hood
Right.
River. And mostly that's because of staff resources. I think it's a big project, and we were super optimistic even 5 years ago when we thought that we could quickly put those in. Then there's a lot of other just foundational work that we need to do for some of our bigger projects. I think we can, if you'd like, I could put some more like ideal dates in there, but I think I'd be a little concerned about being too specific on dates, because a lot of the reasons for maybe why we aren't meeting some of those due dates are kind of out of our control.
Fair enough.
And this is mostly for, I think I can, on like a yearly basis, I think I can put more target due dates for some of this stuff. So like when we're talking about, you know, goals for the next year, I think we can be much more specific with some of that stuff. I think in the plan itself, I would be a little concerned of being too specific in that.
That's fine.
Some of those are already kind of in the transit master plan,
Well,
right, in terms
yeah,
of
yeah.
we want by this year at least, or.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right, no opposed, chair votes aye. And I will read, I get to sign something. I will read the board resolution order number 0417202241 in the matter of adopting the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan Update 2024. Whereas the Hood River County Coordinator Transportation Plan Update 2024 process was completed based on community feedback and included targeted outreach to vulnerable populations. And whereas the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan Update 2024 includes a set of strategies to address the priorities identified by staff and community members that have been developed based on research, analysis, and community engagement. And whereas the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan Update 2024 was developed with the goal of improving mobility and access for all riders, but with a focus on low-income individuals, individuals with a disability, seniors, and limited English proficiency individuals. And whereas the Hood River County District Board of Directors unanimously approved Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan Update 2024 and on the 17th day of April 2024. Therefore, be it resolved that the Hood River County Transportation District adopts the Hood River County Coordinated Transportation Plan Update 2024. I certify that the above resolution was adopted on the 17th day of April 2024 at a public meeting of the Hood River County Transportation District Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm signing. And let's move on to the approval of pay differential program.
All right. So staff has been working on a structured onboarding and training program that is utilized when hiring new drivers. As part of this, we would have designated drivers to provide the training for the new employees. This allows for consistency and provides structure. We would like to offer these employees a shift pay differential rate of $1 per hour to those approved drivers that are providing the training. So staff would ask that the board discuss and vote to approve or to not approve the driver pay differential of $1 per hour for the time spent training the new hires.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, my only question is $1 enough of a carrot, or is that?
Right.
So based on my research, it's kind of in the middle ground between what other agencies do. And I floated it by some of the drivers, and it seemed like an appropriate amount.
Great.
Motion,
I move to approve the pay differential program for trainers.
I second.
all right, all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
No opposed, chair votes aye, and we are done with resolution and action items. On to number 8, Mr. Jeff.
And Jeff is gonna have to leave here pretty soon, so Jeff, if you need me to, I can do the last 3.
Okay, I think I can do it pretty
Okay,
quick here.
great.
Sweet, so operations report, our safety score is up to 96, that's the highest it's been in a while, excited about that, it's mostly because of a decrease in speeding. Yeah, you can see the severe and heavy speeding is a lot less, and the moderate is a lot less as well. I think we've been having a lot of conversations in our meetings about it that our people are listening, so that's great. See, operations data, we've got vehicle hours driven 1,361, vehicle miles 45,074, fuel costs 16,975, and we are at about 38 cents per mile. We've had 2 formal customer complaints, 4 vehicle incidents, 5 customer incidents, and 1 vandalism, which was someone graffitied our sign up at Isaac's, which is, wait, that was not that one, that's this month. There was another one in the back of a bus, but anyways, cleaning that up, and the sign, since I brought it up, it's a decal, should be pretty easy to replace, so not super worried about it. It's not a common issue for us. Cool, other, let's see, formal complaint, I believe that is, yes, formal complaint. Citizens reported a driver acting peculiar while on duty. We opened an investigation. We actually sent out 2 field supervisors to pull that individual off route. It's a little more background on it. It had to do with using the bathroom and not being able to use the bathroom at a certain facility. Driver rushed to another place and ran out of his bus pretty quickly. And yep, so that was that investigation. Vehicle incidents, we had a Gorge Mountain bus pass multiple vehicles while driving down the mountain in snowy conditions. They were not speeding and it was a passing lane, but we did deem it a safety concern considering the conditions and the general speed of the traffic, and had those conversations with that driver, and corrective actions were implemented. So now we've had multiple stuck buses near Meadows in the last big snowstorm, and we worked with Annette Meadows to she actually gave us some tips on some other chaining options before the access roads that are not like official chaining areas for our drivers to chain up, which is also good because we opened up some conversations with her about co-training our drivers for next season, since they have a pretty robust training program, and having some of our drivers go up there to have that experience, because it's really hard to replicate how to chain a bus in a garage without snow, and what it's like to actually roll around and, you know, spin your tires, and it's just not, you need the experience instead of the just the theory, I guess. And then the other vehicle incident was we had a bus back up into our grass bank out front. It was just put a divot in the grass, and I believe it tipped the sign over. I don't remember. And then did we put it back in? I don't
It's
remember.
been fixed, yeah.
Great, thanks. customer incidents, we had a couple disruptive passengers on the bus, usually related to fare and cussing. And then we had another passenger arrested in front of Cat. That one was the person was intoxicated and they ended up just laying on the ground in front. And I called the police and we didn't ask for them to be trespassed because we wanted to give them an opportunity to walk off and turn into a bigger issue with them and their parole officer. And then they started cussing out the officers and they arrested them. So yeah.
Was this in the middle of the day? or-
Yes, well, that was
That was at
probably
5
5
o'clock-ish.
o'clock, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of our witching hour around here.
Yeah, it's a busy hub time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we had an ongoing issue with a rider and we worked with the police to have them suspended and trespass. There's another one that was acting aggressive and saying inappropriate things to our drivers. And that person actually appealed and we worked with their parole officer to make sure that they were deemed safe before allowing them to ride our bus again. And so just recently, in the last week, that person is again allowed to ride our bus. They were suspended for about a month. Other updates, Gorge to Mountain, just quick recap. We had about 8,277 riders for the whole season. Last year it was about 7,910, it's about a 5% increase. It's about 1,025 hours and overall for the whole season about 8 boarding rides per hour. Government camp removal, just a quick recap. I only really had one phone call that was a complaint about us not going to government camp. Overall, I think that was an improvement for our service and the wait time for people coming back down from the mountain. Teacup, although not perfect, I think that we did make improvements from last year. There was a little bit of hiccup mid-season of where our drivers are supposed to be stopping, but I think that's resolved with the lower lot sign being removed and the upper lot sign being actually having an upper lot sign. And yeah, and we're gonna look into more solutions for that next year, as far as figuring out, I'm not sure how we're gonna do it, but figuring out how to service it going up the mountain.
And that wasn't you, right? There was email communication with another Tamara that.
Yeah, not. me.
Okay, got it. Thank you for doing that, by the way, with the teacup
Going,
emails.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then we just had to come up with I'm gonna try to rethink this for next year. I think we were better about it this year with on days we don't run nights, the last bus going down the mountain. At 4, we bring a bunch of people up in the beginning of the day and there's only one time everybody wants to come down at the same time. So this year we were really good about finding an extra driver to run a second bus to back up all of the overload. So we weren't putting like 70 people on one bus. And next year I'd like to figure out a solution so we have a permanent bus for days we don't run nights where it's scheduled in, or figure out how to disperse people so it's not all loaded at that time. Not sure what the solution is really yet, but figure it out in the late summer. Cool. Other than that, we got upcoming route and bids. We just bid on our new drivers just bid on their new routes. Overall, it went pretty smooth. That's gonna go into effect April 27th, which is going to be the new CGE times, the removal of HR Connect, and the beginning of Dog Mountain, and also the launch of the Gorge TransLink new pulse time schedule. So we're all a lot more synced up, which we talked about a couple months ago. Cool. And then potential summer service for Mitchell Point. We are working on possibly servicing Mitchell Point on the weekends, and that will coincide with our white salmon service. We're going to try to figure out how to work that into that bus routes, because that white salmon service has big gaps between it and the days. Try to figure out how to bring that bus into Mitchell Point and service that. Am I missing something? We're gonna
No, that's
Mitchell
right.
Point?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we use one driver and we will be able to serve the white salmon, weekend white salmon route and the Mitchell Point.
I got it. So it's not the same bus, it's the
Will be the same
So
bus
it's
and
the
driver.
same route, okay.
Cause,
Yeah,
'cause the white salmon usually does like a lap and then I think how it went last year, I don't know if it was a lap or two, but then they would, just because of the amount of time we were allowed to have, I think was it 2 laps or 1?
It was just one, so there'd be one lap and then we'd have like, I don't know, like an hour or two in between.
And
And
then they would do
then,
another
yeah,
lap. And so they were like kind of office support between those lap times instead of doing office support, that just have them service Mitchell Point, kind of run
And
try
how-
to shuttle through.
How do you do Mitchell Point without an exit?
You have to go to Pianto.
Okay. Got it.
So
Can
do we
talk
include
more
Pianto
about
in that? I feel like we should
yeah, I think that was the hope too, is that
Oh,
we would add
good.
the into it, yeah.
definitely.
Ooh,
Yeah.
One-way bike rides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, cool. And Mr. Rod. Or are you gonna,
Yeah,
sorry, I beat you to it.
skip, yeah, I got some other
Oh,
stuff.
sorry, go
It's
ahead.
okay, but
Yeah,
as
no,
long as
sorry.
it's going. So we do have some new bus stops that got approved, 8th and Cedar Crop, which will have a temporary sign, 11th and Pine, which will have a temp sign, and then 5th and Cascade, which is the relocation of our 4th and Columbia stop. And that'll have a permanent pole, and there's already seating in that area. And then also we started a new driver.
Sorry,
What?
just the addition to the bus stops, they've been approved by the city, that we can move forward. The next step in the process is we need to contact the affected businesses or owners around the stop, just to give them a 30-day comment period, which they can give comments to Public Works. And then the next step after that.
Are these stops private property or public property?
They're public property.
Cool. And then we've been working on a new driver training program. So when we're onboarding people, it's more consistent and looking into more better. So for a while, we were just using Ride Connection, which was working. And then some of the things that I was feeling like I was going through them as well and realizing that they didn't feel like they were really worth the time that drivers were sitting through. So sitting for our drivers to sit through them. And Amy got a hold of some of the RTAP training programs and actually made a really cool PowerPoint presentation that we just beta tested on our newest driver. And we are also reviewing that with all of our drivers on next Wednesday. But anyways, it was just, so we're giving the same information and we can update that PowerPoint as we change policies or whatever we need to do. So anyways, it's a consistent program, so there's no confusion on how people are training. I think it goes along with the W, it's not WOC. I
No,
always
it's
get
the pay differential program for
Thanks.
trainers. So we're creating a more consistent training program. And really making sure it's robust and repeating all the key points with our drivers, making sure they're feeling more prepared. And then also in addition to that, we're also working on updating the driver handbook to again, making sure that, we've kind of outlined all the rules and the policies and making sure the drivers have all the tools in their hands.
Are we short on drivers? Are we where we need to be? Or
We are at the moment not short on drivers. We are looking to hire some fill-in drivers
Okay.
and possibly full-time, but we did have a reduction of service hours from winter to summer because of the HR Connect, and we're only adding 2 CGE laps instead of 3 that we normally do in the summer.
okay.
Cool. Employee of the month is Rod S. He is one of, is that how you say his last name?
SB.
Is it SB? Okay.
Sure.
He is one of our, he's our second senior driver, so right under Zach. He is one of our great communicators. He always is letting us know what is, what am I trying to say? Sorry, I'm kind of going on a weird rabbit hole here.
You like them?
I like Rod. Yes. we picked up and he stepped up quite a bit in the last few months as a representative for all the other drivers in the union. And he's one of the main voices that speaks for, he's not afraid to speak up. I guess that's more what I'm trying to say, is that he's not afraid to speak up and bring issues to us and helps resolve issues in a very professional.
He's a diplomat.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
We're good to go into the deputy director.
One quick thing for the next, I would love to hear how the whole Second Oak thing is going, but we don't have to talk about it. No, but that's still gonna go through Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend, so.
I think,
that's some
and
time.
Jeff can update me, but I think it's actually been going pretty well for us, the reroute. It's been,
It doesn't really affect any of our bus
No.
stops, and it's not an area where you see flag riders, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so on to your report.
awesome. Okay,
Thank you, Jeff.
See you guys.
thank you, Jeff. So Multnomah Falls Transportation Ambassador Program, we sent out an RFP for a contractor who will run and operate and manage the Multnomah Falls Transportation Ambassadors at the Exit 31 a lot for the time use permit program that we work with ODOT, Forest Service, state parks, etc. on. We are paid in full for that service. We are simply the ones that hire the contractor. So, and just want to make sure you guys are all aware. I have received 2 proposals and hoping to give my final answer by Friday. So that we can make sure that they have enough time to hire up for the May, I want to say 26 start date of the time use program. And then the technology consultant, we're kind of going through a growing pain right now where we've never really had a professional IT person do our networks or our computers or anything like that. It's kind of been ad hoc and most recently me. And so I am looking for a technology consultant who can make sure we're doing best practices and also help assist with the random computer issues that we run into. I'm also hoping to help or hoping to use our current grant that we have open, our intelligent information systems grant that we have for technology. I'll be using some of those funds to have them help us move forward in a couple projects that we're working on. So there's the real-time digital information, the provision cameras, and then I'm got to get 100% approval on this, but I'd also like to help us with adding some reader boards to a couple of our newer cutaways, so that drivers don't have to announce the next stop every single time. But also just keep drivers or riders more confirmed or more in the loop of what the next stop is. We're realizing, we're getting busy. We've got a lot of ridership. We've got with these new schedules where we have so many pulses happening here. We have a lot of people who are getting on the wrong buses. So I'm hoping this will also help alleviate that issue. And then priorities for 2025. I sent you guys a memo. And mainly my ask here is just to make sure that I have kind of included everything that was kind of on your list so that I can make sure it's included in the budget message. And since we are kind of low on time, if you guys want to take a look and then maybe send me an email by Friday, that can work too. Or if you have any at the top of your brain as of now, we can also talk about it. But do you have anything off the top of your brain that you'd like to discuss, or would you like to review and then send me an email by Friday?
Email by Friday is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just send it directly to me. Okay.
All you have?
That is all I have.
Okay, so now's the time where we go into executive session.
Yes, I just need you to say that for
Yep. We will now move into executive session for ORS 192.6602I and 192.6608 to review and evaluate the performance of an officer, employee, or staff member if the person does not request an open meeting. The reason for executive session may not be used to do a general evaluation of an agency goal, objective, or operation, or any directive to personnel concerning those subjects.
Okay.
So,
And we're actually I'm gonna leave the room as well, so you guys can have the initial discussion. And Tim leave, and then I will boot all the public out of, I'll put you in the waiting room. And then when we come out of the executive session, I will bring everybody back. Okay.
do you mind? Oh, you can unmute this also.
And she goes with her IT hat on.
I know, I can't believe we've gotten this far without somebody.
Now,
Okay, so we're back in session. And I think we're on to discussion items. Does anybody have any? No, upcoming events.
just the discontinuation of the Connect service on April 26th and the start of Dog Mountain and the new Flamingo Gorge Express schedule on April 27th.
I
Um,
move to get parents to their freshman orientation.
All right, cool. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So,
Okay,
Me too.
all in favor?
Aye.
Was that
Aye.
my first? Tamara?
Yes. All right, we are adjourned at, what time?
6:04.
6:04. Thank you guys so much.
and do we need a new battery or a new clock?
Thank you, everyone.
Maybe a little bit of both.
I know, I was looking at that during Will's like Q&A and I was like, oh, I have plenty of time.
Yeah.
No, I did not. All right, yeah, I